Hello and welcome. Here with your host Dom. We're going to be talking about the 2020-2021 NBA season today, specifically my predictions for the playoff seeding and regular season awards. So let's start off with the playoff seeding, and we'll start in the East. Right now I see the Bucks as the first seed. They were the first seed last season and they got better in the offseason. They went out and gave up quite a bit to upgrade Eric Bledsoe to Jrue Holiday, so if they aren't the first seed, barring injuries of course, I think that's disappointing for Milwaukee. This really gives them a solid big three in my mind. It may not be the super teams we've seen in the past, but Chris Middleton being your third best player means you have an incredible team. The defense on this team should also be insane this season. My pick for who wins the East is definitely between this team and who I have as my second seed. That second seed being the Celtics. Boston looks fairly similar this season. Their major moves are moving on from Hayward and bringing in Jeff Teague and Tristan Thompson, who I expect to both be key bench pieces for Boston. Having them as the second seed may be a reach, and it could potentially be my bias creeping in, but I think this is a really good team with some really good chemistry. This also has to do with my expectation of Brown and Tatum to continue to improve, as well as my belief that Boston added help to their main problem areas, those being rebounding, where they added Thompson, and bench scoring, for which they added Teague, as well as rookie Aaron Naismith, who I think will have plenty of opportunities to contribute this season. Again, 2 may be a reach, but I don't think they should fall below 3 if they're healthy. I have Brooklyn as the third seed. This was a bit of a tough spot for me, but I think the duo of Kyrie and KD is just too good not to work. I actually think this is a beautiful pairing despite all the dysfunction between these two guys combined. I also expect KD to come back at least mostly the same way we remember him. Obviously it could be a slow start for him, but I think he's going to be just fine. Of course, I also really like the pieces around them, especially Jarrett Allen, Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, and Karis LeVert. Getting the fourth seed, I have Miami. I really love this Miami team. I love them going into last season as well. Of course, I didn't expect them to have as good of a season as they did, but I really liked them. I like them even more entering this season, though. Jimmy Butler has long been one of my favorite players, and I think there's no doubt he's a great leader for this team. Bam Adebayo should also come into the season even better, and he was already really good. They still have solid vets like Dragic and Crowder, and they added Avery Bradley. And they have great young players even outside of Bam. I think Harrow and Duncan Robinson are going to be a big part of this team this season. If they can improve on where they left off at the end of last season, they could really push this team over the edge and back into the finals. My fifth seed pick right now is Philly. I think adding Seth Curry and Danny Green is huge for this team. Adding that much three-point shooting should make the Sixers offense significantly better. I really think the Embiid and Simmons combo can work if they are built around correctly, and I think this was a step in the right direction. I also really like the addition of Dwight Howard to the bench. Overall, I really like what Morey has put together so far in his new position, and I think Philly could be a really good team again this year. I've got Toronto as my sixth seed. I don't have a lot to say about them. I really loved the addition of Aaron Baines for this team, as well as the retention of Fred VanVleet. With that being said, however, they really didn't do much to improve. I feel like they're really relying on Pascal improving again to make them a better team this season. I do think this team will still be very competitive like they have in the last few seasons, but I'm concerned about what their ceiling is right now. With the seventh seed, I have the Pacers. This is a team that really didn't do anything this offseason, but I don't see that dropping them out of the playoffs. I still think this is a solid team, and I'm really hoping to see a better version of Oladipo than we did last season. Aside from that, I still really like guys like Miles Turner, Malcolm Brogdon, and of course Sabonis on this roster. This is a team without a lot of star power, but it's a group that always plays hard, and I could see some of their guys being better this season than they were last. I was between a few teams for the 8th seed, but I ultimately settled on the Hawks here. To start with the obvious, Trae Young is incredible. I also really like John Collins. They added Bogdan Bogdanovic and Danilo Gallinari on the wing, and then they added plenty of defense, which was a major issue for them with Chris Dunn and rookies Onyeka Okongwu and Skylar Mays. They also picked up Rondo, who I love as a backup for Trigger Trae. I think this team has a really bright future, and I think some playoff experience would be great for them. Now looking over to the West, with the first seed I have the Lakers. This is also the team that I expect to represent the West in the finals. The Lakers are defending champions, and in my opinion, they got even better this offseason. Yes, they lost Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Avery Bradley, and Danny Green, who were all contributors to the Lakers' success last season. However, they brought in Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, Wesley Matthews, and Marc Gasol. Now, Harrell and Gasol are an improvement over Dwight and JaVale, and I don't feel like that's very debatable. And Wesley Matthews should make up nicely for losing the shooting of Green and Bradley. They also brought back Markieff Morris, KCP, and of course Anthony Davis. Now, one of those names is significantly bigger than the other two, but Keith was a solid rotational piece for them when the playoffs came, and KCP was their leading three-point shooter last season. With the second seed, I have the Clippers. There's been a lot of Clipper slander since they got eliminated, and while it is well-deserved, I think it's time we all come back down to earth and remember that this is a really good team. Paul George and Kawhi are great NBA players, and they are surrounded by really good role players. Yes, they lost Montrez, but they brought in Ibaka, and that should be really big for them. Ibaka is a guy who should actually start for them, and honestly, may even be a better fit for them. They also brought in Luke Kennard, which I really like. He should give them a nice 3-point shooting boost, as well as another capable ball handler, so long as he's healthy. Then, of course, they still have guys like Pat Bev, Sweet Lou, and Zubats. I think the most interesting part of this team may be how they look under Ty Lue, but regardless of what he runs, this team should be really good again this season. I think the Nuggets will claim the 3rd seed. I really like this team's potential this season. They didn't do much in the offseason, but they brought back the core. Jokic, Harris, Murray, and Millsap are all here again. I think Michael Porter Jr. should be even better this season from what we saw in the bubble, and I also think Bol Bol could contribute some meaningful minutes and genuinely carve out a role on this team. Overall, this is just a team with a lot of talented players that work well together, and they work hard every night. My 4th seed is Dallas. If I knew Kristaps was going to be healthy this season, I might be willing to put this team a little higher. I don't know that, though. What I do know is that Porzingis won't be here until January at least, and Seth Curry is gone. Now, with that being said, pretty much the rest of the gang is back. They added Josh Richardson as well, and if Luka improves again this season, then this team is scary. I've got Utah at 5 this season. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are both really good, and they're now locked up on long-term deals, so there should be no distractions. Jordan Clarkson came back, and Derek Favors is back in town, which is great to see for this team. My hope is that Conley is better this season, and I do expect him to be. This is a really good team, but the West is loaded, and they're going to have to work hard this season to be considered a real contender. I have Portland as the 6th seed. With Nurkic back, this team could be better than this, but like I said with Utah, the West is loaded with good teams. Dame, CJ, Nurkic are a great trio, though, and they should be good again this season. They brought in Rocco, Derrick Jones Jr., and Enes Kanter, and all of these guys have the potential to elevate this squad. Houston is my 7th seed. This is assuming that they are the team we see right now, though. Harden alone makes any team a playoff threat, but John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins have also looked good in the preseason despite coming off of injuries. I also love the addition of Christian Wood for this team. I think he could be really good this season, and that would be huge for Houston. Finally, I have Memphis as the 8th seed. I really like this Memphis team, and they may not have done much this offseason, but I still expect them to be fairly improved. Ja, Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, Dylan Brooks, and even Grayson Allen are all guys who should come back into the season better than last. Valanciunas is also still here and is a reliable center for this team. This is one of those predictions where I hope I'm correct. I would love to see this Memphis team in the playoffs. I would also like to mention the Pelicans here. If the Rockets move Harden, or if Harden refuses to play for them, then I could see them falling out of the playoffs. And Memphis finishing 7th leaves a wide open 8th seed. And I can really see New Orleans capitalizing on that opportunity. Now, I think that Phoenix may be a safer bet to be here with a trio of CP3, Booker, and Ayton. And the same goes for Steph Curry-led Warriors, actually. But I'm going to be bold. I'm going to stick with the Pels here. You know, they moved Drew Holiday, but they brought in Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams for this season. So I really like their top 6 now in Zion, Lonzo, B.I., Adams, Bledsoe, and Redick. So let's move on to the regular season awards. My thoughts right now are that Rookie of the Year is between Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, and Obi Toppin. I feel like this award is really tough this year. There are several other guys that this award could go to without me being even a little bit surprised. I'm going to go with Obi Toppin, though. I think this is a really great combination of skill and opportunity. Obi is NBA ready, and he's going to play a lot for the Knicks this season, and I'm really excited to watch this kid play throughout the season. MIP is probably the toughest award to predict each season. You never know who could have a sudden come up any given year. I'm going to go with Christian Wood, however. I think he could have a huge breakout season with the Rockets. I also really like his old teammate Luke Kennard to be in the MIP conversation in LA, but we'll stick with Wood here. I think he's going to play a lot this season, and I think he can capitalize on that. As for 6th Man of the Year, I really love Spencer Dinwiddie, and barring injuries, he will be coming off the bench this season. I think there's no doubt that Dinwiddie is the best player off of Brooklyn's bench, and he should get plenty of minutes to contribute to a lot of winning basketball. Despite a likely minutes decrease, I think Dinwiddie could near the 20-point per game mark again this season, and his assists should be similar this season as he's likely the primary ball handler off the bench. As for Defensive Player of the Year, my decoy is AD. Gobert and Giannis should both be threats for this award again, however, I think this is the season AD finally gets it. I'm really expecting a lot from him this season, and I don't think he's going to disappoint. We all know Davis is absolutely incredible on that end of the floor, and he's just been getting better, so I don't expect him to miss the award again this season. I think he's been due for it for a while, and that could also play into the voters' decision at the end of the year. In the 21st century, only 2 coaches have won the Coach of the Year award without being the coach of a top 3 seed. These are Scott Brooks in the 09-2010 season, and Hubie Brown in the 03-04 season. Now, under Scott Brooks, the Thunder went from 23 wins to 50, and Memphis went from 28 wins to 50 under Hubie Brown. Now, the only guy that I could see coming close to pulling this off the season would maybe be Lloyd Pierce. However, I just don't see a world where the Hawks come out and win 50 games in an 82-game season this year. So I decided to look at my top 3 predicted seeds in each conference. And that left me with Coach Bud, Brad Stevens, Steve Nash, Frank Vogel, Ty Lue, and Mike Malone. I'm left leaning towards Brad Stevens and Mike Malone, though. I think Boston and Denver both have the potential to have big seasons and go above people's expectations. Now I'm going with Mike Malone here. I think Stevens has missed out on some Coach of the Year opportunities in the past just by getting overshadowed by another coach, and I think that could be the case again this season. Denver is a team that I really think could have a big season. I love the chemistry of this team, and of course, all of the talent on it. And I'm thinking that a stellar season from them will elevate Malone to Coach of the Year. I will say that if Dallas stays healthy, then Rick Carlisle definitely enters this conversation. However, that is a huge if for Porzingis. Since the 99-2000 season, the league MVP has been from a first seed 16 times, a second and third seed 4 times, and a seed lower than that just once, that one time being Russell Westbrook. Now, I'm not so sure I see Giannis finishing the MVP three-peat, even if it's only because of voter fatigue. I also don't see LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George, or a Celtic winning it, and so that leaves me with only a few options, them being Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic, Kyrie or KD, or Luka, who I think is the only player with the potential to join Russ as the only guys to break that top 3 seed trend in the 2000s. After looking at all these guys, though, I'm going to go with Anthony Davis. I already picked him as my depoy, and I think Davis can be equally as stellar on the offensive end of the floor this season. If Denver gets a top 2 seed again, then I could see Jokic being an MVP-type player this season. But I think this may be the season where Davis overtakes LeBron as the best player in the Lakers. And that's crazy for me because I still think LeBron is the best player in the NBA right now. But I just really think AD is ready to take over. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. And I want to thank anyone who watched this. If you want more basketball content, then you can stick around this channel, and I'll see you soon.